Hey everybody, Brian Tro coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date today is Tuesday, October 18th. So there's a lot of change in the air. It woke up to another pretty heavy freeze this morning. So there's a lot to get to as the season transitions away from summer and closer to winter. Let's start off with the brook trout fishing. Get a lot of questions about brook trout. And unfortunately, there's a lot of good reasons to not go brook trout fishing right now. One is we already have reports of fish starting to pair up, which is not unusual. Now remember, when I give these forecasts, it's a big state. There's a lot of variety to the water. So just because some folks have seen some fish pairing up in drainage over here doesn't mean that it's happening in the one that you like to fish. So this is just, in general, this is the time of year where the brook trout really start to pair up. And you need to be on the lookout for it, and you need to learn when to avoid fishing for them and kind of just say, hey, I'm leaving them alone. But in addition to the fact that these brookies are really starting to pair up, we've got really low water across pretty much the whole state. And we've got major leaf litter falling pretty much everywhere too. This all come on quite quickly. Just a week ago, it seemed like everything was green with a little hint of yellow and orange. And like I was out in the water all day yesterday with some big gusts of wind. There's a lot of wind coming tomorrow. There's a lot of wind coming Wednesday. And with each of those gusts, the leaves are just coming down, all right? So some trees already have lost all their leaves. Like the walnut trees they're done. Sycamores are halfway done. So with so many different types of trees, we're gonna have to deal with leaf litter for quite a while. So that's not just the brook trout streams. That's going to be the story down there. If you want to fish for musky on the Shenandoah or the James, you're going to have to deal with this stuff too. So low water, lots of leaves, and fish pairing up. Personally for me, my brook trout fishing is kind of going to be done now for quite a while, until well after the spawn and well after the fries start to develop. So anyway, that's a little bit of a bummer. I hope you all got out there and enjoyed that little bump from the hurricane a couple weeks ago and got some good brook trout fishing in, but it's starting to kind of wind down. All right, let's move further down in the drainages. All right, as far as the trout go, the state is out stocking heavily and trying to get folks out on the waters. Still dealing with low water in a lot of places, but some of their favorite delayed harvests have come online, like for example, Back Creek delayed harvest, which a lot of people like to fish. That has been stocked and open for the season, but you're gonna have to deal with some low water, right? So if you're gonna go to places like that, just be ready for crystal clear, spooky low, lots of sight fishing. The rule of go small in the fall is definitely in play. A lot of the nymphs that live in our streams this time of year that were, born out from the hatches in the spring, they're tiny, all right? They're tiny, they're growing, and with clear low water and mostly small insects, it makes sense for you to be fishing tiny stuff. All right, so yesterday I was on a spring creek and the water was clear and low, and putting on size 18 and 20 zebra midges is a good way to fish. Putting on, a size 18 tungsten pheasant tail nymph is a good way to fish. Anyway, we've got a lot of great tiny flies that everybody should be looking at using over the next couple weeks, because I'm telling you right now, I've been looking at like the 10-day forecast and we're low and I don't see a whole lot of rain coming. So I have a feeling we're going to stay quite low for a while. Other streams, so the DWR is out stocking trout like crazy. They've hit a lot of lakes and a lot of rivers. I know the Jackson Special Reg has been stocked, so it's a great place to go and bike in or hike in. That's a little bit bigger drainage, okay? So you're not going to have as much problems with low water. It'll just be low for it, but it'll have plenty of holding water and plenty of riffles, but you'll have to deal with those leaves, okay? So just kind of be prepared. Where else? The bull pasture has been stocked in both Highland and Bath County. That's a nice large freestone stream, a lot of fun to fish. Even though it's put and take, you can always catch trout there. You just got to get off the beaten path a little bit. Some of the lakes in the area are fishing pretty well because they haven't flipped yet, and a lot of trout are in the upper water column. So if you head over to like Switzer Reservoir, it's full of triple-weighted brown trout. You don't have to worry about the spawn. And there's 12, 13, 14 inchers up cruising around. This is when we're going to be in the top 5 feet of the water column this time of year. Once it gets really cold, they're going to be 40 feet deep. So as far as the weather goes, over the next few days, it was below freezing last night. It's going to be in the 20s the next couple of nights. So multiple nights below freezing with hard freezes, getting almost, perhaps as cold as like 24, 25 degrees in a night or two. That's going to really start to zap our terrestrials, okay? There's still crickets, a lot of crickets. There's still grasshoppers out. You may not see them in the first couple hours of the day because they're just like sitting there cold, waiting for it to warm up, but you'll see them out and about. But they're probably going to get zapped this week. Now, no one tells the fish that, okay? So if you're fishing a spring creek a week from now and you want to put on a hopper, they've been eating them for 3 months. However, the farther we get away from them being readily available and the colder the waters get, the less likely they're going to be coming up to eat. So we're wrapping up terrestrial season over the next week or two, all right? They'll become less and less productive, all right? So that's sad. I love terrestrial fishing. It's the best. But hard freezes, multiples back to back to back are what zap those bugs for the year. So keep your eye on the daily stocking report. Keep your fingers crossed for some more rain. If the trout streams near you are a little low, check out some of these lakes and ponds. They're actually a lot of fun to fish, especially this time of year, and especially on calmer days where the leaves aren't coming down. The problem with leaves on the creeks and streams is they get funneled and channeled to exactly where the food is and exactly where the fish are. All right, which brings us down to, spring creeks. So I have a lot of questions about this in particular, Mossy Creek, brown trout spawning. Do we fish? Do we not fish? What's the deal with that? It's interesting. It definitely doesn't get treated the same way as the brook trout streams, and it shouldn't. You're not allowed to wade the stream, which means you have zero risk of trampling reds. When those fish are starting to pair up and daisy chaining and swimming around, you almost have zero risk of hooking them because they just have no interest in your fly. All right, so as far as do we lay off Mossy, do people not stop fishing it? They don't. I live on the creek. People are fishing it all the time. They're really not doing that much harm. The chances of you catching a big fish that is interested in spawning are really, really poor. So the reality is the fishing just gets tough. There's not a lot of rainbows in the creek. There's some, so you'll catch those. There's immature browns that are 6, 7, 8, 9 inches that aren't spawning. You'll catch those, but the creek just gets tough until about mid-November when those fish get done with their spawn and they come off the nest hungry. Okay, so are there fish starting to pair up out there? Yes, we've seen a few, but we've also had people catching plenty of fish that aren't ready to spawn yet or haven't spawned yet. So, do you want to be out there targeting fish and pulling them off their nests? No. Okay, so just pay attention, be an observant angler, okay? We'll kind of let you all know once those big fish are done and back to feeding, and there's always this little window around like Veterans Day where those fish really come out and start eating hard again, kind of just before winter. All right, the warm water streams, a lot easier for us to discuss. The water temps are right for musky. The water levels are really clear and really low, which makes it hard. And the leaf situation is poor, okay? And some people hear that and they're like, oh, there's some leaves, no big deal. Yeah, that is. If you catch a leaf on every single cast, it's a big deal. You aren't fishing effectively, okay? And anybody who's ever gone fly fishing for muskie, it's a lot of physical work. It's physically challenging. And to heave all that line out and get hung every time is just like, it's a non-starter. So let's let some of those leaves get down. Let's let them get flushed out. Let's keep our fingers crossed for some rain and hope for some really good muskie fishing here in the next month or so. The same kind of goes for the bass, although the bass are, getting really lethargic. These sub-freezing nights are going to really slow them down to the point where they're almost not worth going and targeting unless you know exactly where they are, hit a warmer day, and don't spook everything around them. I think that's it for now. As always, if you have questions about specific streams or water levels in this spot or that spot or anything, or want to go to some new places, just give us a call, email us, or our favorite, stop by and talk with us. We got a lot of great stuff in here for the fall, a lot of winter clothing in. We just got dozens and dozens of new fly patterns. That's going to be a trend you'll see this year. We've got a lot going on with flies. So a lot of fun stuff happening here. Stop by and see us. Take this opportunity, if you're kind of taking a little pause from some fishing, to go through your gear. Check your lines, leaders, all that stuff. And if you need any help with it, let us know. We'll help rig you up. All right, see you next week.